Do you remember the wall decor trends from the 1970s every house had? Wood paneling covered every wall, mirror tiles caught the light, and suddenly, everything disappeared. Let's uncover why these wall trends died with our grandmothers. Wood paneling defined 1970s interior design more than any other single trend. Dark faux wood panels covered entire living rooms, basements, and family rooms, creating warm, cave-like atmospheres that felt cozy to some and oppressively dark to others. The panels weren't actually wood. They were thin sheets of pressed wood or plastic printed with wood grain patterns, making them affordable alternatives to real wood that middle-class families could install themselves. Hardware stores sold panels in 4x8 sheets for a few dollars each, and installation required only nails and basic carpentry skills. The result was walls that looked woody and modern without the expense of real hardwood. But wood paneling had significant problems. The dark colors, usually walnut, mahogany, or oak tones, made rooms feel smaller and darker, requiring extra lighting. The fake wood grain fooled no one up close, revealing itself as obviously artificial plastic or paper. The panels also trapped moisture, creating mold problems in basements and bathrooms. Nail holes and seams showed clearly, and damaged panels couldn't be repaired without replacing entire sections. As the 1980s arrived, lighter, brighter interior design became popular. White walls, natural light, and open spaces replaced dark paneling and enclosed rooms. Homeowners ripped out paneling enthusiastically, revealing original walls underneath or installing fresh drywall. Today, wood paneling exists primarily in unfinished basements and as punchlines about outdated 70s decor, a reminder of when dark, fake wood seemed sophisticated and modern. Macrame wall hangings were the fiber art that defined 1970s bohemian style. Made by knotting rope, cord, or yarn into intricate patterns, macrame pieces ranged from small plant hangers to massive wall tapestries covering entire sections of walls. Grandmothers and craft enthusiasts spent hours knotting natural jute, cotton cord, and colorful yarn into owls, geometric patterns, and flowing designs that hung from wooden dowels or driftwood pieces. The handmade nature meant each piece was unique, and the natural materials fit perfectly with 70s earth tone aesthetics and back-to-nature movements. Macrame appeared everywhere: living rooms, bedrooms, kitchens, even bathrooms. Plant hangers suspended spider plants and pothos from ceilings, while wall hangings added texture and visual interest to wood-paneled walls. Craft stores sold macrame kits, and women's magazines featured patterns and instructions, making macrame accessible to anyone willing to learn basic knotting techniques. But macrame collected dust relentlessly. The intricate knots and loops trapped dirt, pet hair, and cooking grease, creating cleaning nightmares. The natural fibers yellowed and frayed over time, and washing macrame pieces often caused them to shrink, distort, or fall apart completely. The boho aesthetic that seemed fresh in 1975 felt dated and hippie-ish by 1985. As minimalism and sleek design became popular in the 1980s and 90s, macrame disappeared almost completely. Mirror tiles were 12-inch square mirrors installed in grids across walls, creating disco-era glamour and making small rooms feel larger through reflection. Sold in packages at hardware stores, the tiles came with adhesive backing that made installation simple: peel, stick, done. Homeowners covered entire accent walls with mirror grids, creating dramatic reflective surfaces that caught light and expanded visual space. The tiles were particularly popular in small bathrooms, narrow hallways, and dark basements. where reflection and light multiplication made spaces feel less claustrophobic. The mirror tile aesthetic screamed 1970s sophistication. Beveled edges caught light beautifully, and the grid pattern created geometric visual interest. Parties and gatherings benefited from mirror tiles' ability to make rooms feel larger and more open than they actually were. The tiles also cost significantly less than large custom mirrors, making glamour accessible to average homeowners. But mirror tiles had fatal flaws. The adhesive backing failed over time, causing tiles to fall and shatter without warning, dangerous for homes with children and pets. The grout lines between tiles collected dust and grime, creating cleaning challenges. Water damage in bathrooms caused silvering to peel away from tile backs, creating black spots that ruined the reflective effect. Worst of all, the grid pattern that once seemed modern began looking dated and tacky by the mid-1980s. Removing mirror tiles proved difficult and dangerous. The adhesive bonded strongly to walls, and tiles shattered easily during removal, creating sharp glass hazards. Today, mirror tiles exist primarily in unrenovated 70s homes and as cautionary examples of trends that seemed glamorous but aged terribly. Avocado green was the color of the 1970s, and avocado green wallpaper covered walls in kitchens, bathrooms, and dining rooms across America. The color, a muddy olive-toned green somewhere between pea soup and guacamole, appeared in bold floral patterns, geometric designs, and textured prints that dominated walls and defined the decade's aesthetic. Compared with harvest gold, burnt orange, and chocolate brown, avocado green wallpaper created earth-tone color schemes that felt natural, warm, and thoroughly 70s. Wallpaper manufacturers produced hundreds of avocado green patterns, huge flowers, paisley swirls, abstract shapes, and striped designs that covered walls in pattern and color. The wallpaper was usually vinyl-coated, making it washable and durable, perfect for kitchens where cooking splatter and bathroom moisture required easy cleaning. Installing wallpaper was a popular DIY project, and families spent weekends pasting avocado patterns onto walls, creating coordinated looks with matching appliances, curtains, and linens. But avocado green aged poorly. The muddy color made rooms feel dark and dated, and the bold patterns overwhelmed small spaces. Removing 70s wallpaper proved nightmarish. The vinyl coating resisted stripping solutions, and layers of wallpaper paste adhered stubbornly to walls beneath. Homeowners spent hours steaming, scraping, and sanding to remove avocado nightmares. By the 1980s, avocado green became shorthand for outdated, ugly decor. The color that once felt earthy and natural became a punchline, representing everything wrong with 70s design excess. Harvest gold was avocado green's warmer, yellower cousin, a mustard yellow-gold color that covered 1970s walls in kitchens, bathrooms, and bedrooms. The color supposedly evoked wheat fields and autumn harvests, creating warm, earthy atmospheres that fit perfectly with 70s natural aesthetics. Harvest gold wallpaper came in countless patterns, geometric designs, floral prints, textured weaves, and abstract shapes that coordinated with harvest gold appliances, countertops, and shag carpeting. Wallpaper companies marketed harvest gold as sophisticated and modern, a departure from the whites and pastels that dominated earlier decades. The warm yellow tones supposedly made rooms feel sunny and cheerful, even in windowless spaces like basements and interior bathrooms. Vinyl-coated harvest gold wallpaper was washable, durable, and perfect for high-traffic areas where walls needed frequent cleaning. But harvest gold had the same problems as avocado green. The color was inherently ugly, the patterns were overwhelming, and removal was nearly impossible. The warm, golden yellow that seemed cheerful in 1973 felt dingy and depressing by 1983. Rooms covered in harvest gold wallpaper looked dark, dated, and desperately in need of updating. In the color combination of avocado green and harvest gold became the most mocked aspect of 70s design. Together, they created muddy, dark color schemes that modern design rejected completely. Removing harvest gold wallpaper became a rite of passage for homeowners buying 70s houses, a necessary exorcism of outdated design before fresh paint could restore walls to neutrality and light. 5. Trends down, and a pattern emerges. Dark wood covering walls, knotted rope collecting dust, mirror grids shattering unexpectedly. Avocado and harvest gold overwhelming every room. Every trend promised warmth, sophistication, or space. Every trend aged into embarrassment. The 70s loved bold, dark, earthy design. The 80s buried it forever. Owl wall art dominated 1970s homes in ceramic, wood, macrame, and metal forms. Owls appeared everywhere. Single owls perched on branches, owl families clustered together, abstract owl shapes, and realistic owl portraits. The birds symbolized wisdom and nature, fitting perfectly with 70s back-to-nature movements and earth-tone aesthetics. Ceramic owls in avocado green, harvest gold, and burnt orange hung in kitchens and living rooms. Wooden owls carved from driftwood or walnut adorned paneled walls. Macrame owls with googly eyes dangled from jute rope. Metal owls in copper and brass provided sculptural accents. Homco, home interiors and gifts, became famous for mass-producing ceramic owl wall art sold through home parties where representatives displayed products in living rooms, encouraging friends and neighbors to buy matching sets. The owls were affordable, easy to install with simple hanging hooks, and created instant wall interest in homes with empty walls and limited budgets. But owl overload became a problem. By the late 70s, every house had owl art, making the trend feel generic and mass-produced rather than unique and meaningful. The kitschy nature of owls, especially the googly-eyed macrame versions, became increasingly embarrassing as design trends shifted toward minimalism. Today, vintage owl art sells in thrift stores and online marketplaces as retro collectibles. The owls that once represented wisdom and nature became symbols of 70s excess and questionable taste, reminders of when everyone decorated identically. Decorative plates hung on walls in careful arrangements, transforming functional dinnerware into art displays. Grandmothers collected commemorative plates, anniversary plates, holiday plates, scenic plates depicting landmarks and flowers, then displayed them on walls using special plate hangers with wire hooks. The plates clustered in groupings above sofas, around doorways, and on accent walls, creating visual interest through color, pattern, and repetition. Collectors traded plates at swap meets and ordered limited edition series through mail-order catalogs. Bradford Exchange became famous for selling collectible plates with certificates of authenticity, promising that limited production would make plates valuable investments. The plates depicted everything: Norman Rockwell scenes, wildlife, historical events, seasonal themes, and floral arrangements. Display plates never touched food. They existed purely as wall decoration. The trend connected to earlier generations when displaying fine china demonstrated wealth and taste. But 1970s plate displays used mass-produced commercial plates rather than heirloom china, democratizing the tradition while eliminating actual value or craftsmanship. Plate hangings fell out of favor as minimalism replaced cluttered displays. The wire hangers looked cheap and visible. Plates collected dust that was difficult to clean without removing them completely, and the entire aesthetic felt old-fashioned and grandmotherly. Earthquake risks also made hanging heavy ceramic plates dangerous in some regions. Today, decorative plate collections languish in thrift stores, the promised investment value never materializing. The plates that once covered walls became donations and yard sale items, are reminders of when displaying mass-produced dinnerware seemed like sophisticated interior design. Corkboard walls covered entire walls in natural cork material, creating textured, earthy surfaces perfect for pinning photos, notes, calendars, and children's artwork. Sold in large sheets or tiles, cork provided practical bulletin board functionality while fitting perfectly with 70s natural material aesthetics. The warm brown tones coordinated with wood paneling and earth tone color schemes, and the natural texture added visual interest to flat walls. Cork walls appeared most frequently in kitchens, home offices, children's rooms, and family rooms, where organizational needs met decorative desires. Parents loved that kids could pin artwork directly to walls without making holes in drywall. Our home offices used cork walls as giant bulletin boards for calendars, schedules, and important papers. The material also provided sound dampening, making rooms quieter, a bonus in homes with multiple children and thin walls. But cork walls had significant problems. The material crumbled and deteriorated over time, especially around frequently used pin areas. Cork absorbed cooking odors and moisture in kitchens, developing unpleasant smells and mildew stains. Dust and dirt embedded in the porous surface proved nearly impossible to clean. The natural brown color darkened rooms, and cork's texture caught light strangely, creating shadows and visual heaviness. Removing cork proved difficult. The adhesive backing bonded strongly to walls, and cork crumbled during removal, requiring extensive wall repair afterward. By the 1990s, cork walls represented outdated 70s design, replaced by whiteboards, magnetic boards, and digital organization systems. Flocked wallpaper featured raised velvet or fuzzy patterns on smooth paper backgrounds, creating textured, tactile wall coverings that felt luxurious and looked dramatic. The most common designs were damask patterns, floral motifs, and Baroque-inspired designs in colors like burgundy, navy, forest green, and black, with gold or silver backgrounds. Running your hand across flocked wallpaper revealed soft, raised patterns that caught light and created shadows, adding depth and dimension to flat walls. Flocked wallpaper appeared in dining rooms, powder rooms, and accent walls, where dramatic impact mattered more than practicality. The velvet texture implied wealth and sophistication, making average homes feel more elegant and formal. Installation required careful attention. The flocked portions couldn't get wet with paste, or they'd flatten and ruin permanently. But flocked wallpaper collected dust aggressively. The raised velvet fibers trapped dirt, cobwebs, and cooking grease, creating cleaning nightmares. Vacuuming with brush attachments was the only safe cleaning method, and even then the flocking could pull away from backing paper. Moisture from bathrooms and kitchens made flocking mildew and smell musty. The heavy, ornate patterns overwhelmed small rooms and felt oppressively dark. Removing flocked wallpaper proved even worse than removing regular wallpaper. The velvet layer resisted stripping solutions and required scraping, steaming, and extensive wall repair. By the 1980s, flocked wallpaper represented outdated Victorian excess, replaced by smooth, light, minimalist wall treatments that didn't collect filth or require archaeological excavation to remove. String art involved hammering small nails into boards in specific patterns, then wrapping colored thread or string around nails to create geometric designs, shapes, and images. Popular designs included owls, sailboats, horses, abstract geometric patterns, and inspirational words like love and peace. Craft stores sold string art kits with pre-printed patterns on wood boards, nails, and colored string, making the craft accessible to anyone who could hammer nails and follow directions. String art hung in bedrooms, living rooms, and family rooms, providing handmade wall decor that required minimal artistic skill. The dimensional quality, string wrapping around nails, created depth and shadow, made simple designs appear more complex and interesting. Natural wood boards fit perfectly with 70s earth tones, and metallic threads added sparkle and visual interest. But string art looked amateurish and craft fare cheap rather than artistic or sophisticated. The nails showed through string designs, creating industrial rather than refined aesthetics. Dust collected on strings and in nail gaps, making cleaning difficult without damaging delicate thread arrangements. The wood boards warped and cracked over time, causing nails to loosen and strings to sag or break. String art also screamed homemade craft project rather than legitimate art, making homes look low budget and unsophisticated. As professional art became more accessible and affordable, handmade string art felt increasingly juvenile and outdated. Today, string art exists primarily as kids' craft projects and nostalgia pieces, reminders of when hammering nails into wood and wrapping string constituted home decor. 10 trends down. Owls watching from walls, plates collecting dust, cork crumbling with age, flocked wallpaper trapping filth, string wrapped around nails. Every trend promised creativity, warmth, or sophistication. Every trend was cheap, amateurish, or impossible to clean. The 70s crafted endlessly. The 80s threw it all away. Velvet paintings were one of the most distinctive and controversial wall decor trends of the 1970s. Images painted on black velvet fabric that created dramatic, high-contrast artwork sold at gas stations, flea markets, and roadside stands. The most iconic subjects were Elvis Presley, tigers, bullfighters, Mexican scenes, naked women, unicorns, horses, and abstract designs painted in fluorescent colors that glowed under black lights. Artists worked quickly with airbrush techniques and stencils, creating mass-produced images that sold cheaply, despite being technically original hand-painted artworks. The black velvet background absorbed light while painted subjects reflected it, creating three-dimensional effects that made images appear to float or glow against dark backgrounds. Velvet paintings hung in rec rooms, basement bars, teenage bedrooms, and man caves where their kitschy, slightly rebellious nature fit perfectly with 70s counterculture aesthetics. Black light posters and velvet paintings often appeared together, creating psychedelic environments enhanced by dim lighting and recreational substances. The paintings were affordable, most cost between $10 and $50, making art accessible to working-class families who couldn't afford gallery pieces or limited edition prints. Gas station velvet painting salesmen became cultural icons, approaching travelers with paintings displayed on roadside fences, promising authentic Mexican art at bargain prices. But velvet paintings carried significant stigma. Art critics dismissed them as kitsch, lowbrow trash that represented everything wrong with mass-produced commercial art. The subjects, crying clowns, matadors, naked women, Elvis, were considered tacky and unsophisticated by anyone with pretensions toward refined taste. The paintings also collected dust aggressively, The velvet fibers trapped dirt and pet hair, and cleaning velvet paintings was nearly impossible without damaging the delicate painted surfaces. Water spots and stains showed prominently on black velvet, and any attempt to clean paintings usually made things worse. The velvet painting aesthetic became synonymous with trailer parks, dive bars, and questionable taste by the 1980s. What had once seemed edgy and cool began looking cheap and embarrassing as mainstream culture moved toward minimalism and neutral color palettes. The paintings also faded significantly over time. The bright fluorescent paints used on velvet weren't light-fast, meaning colors dulled and changed under regular light exposure. Many velvet paintings ended up dark, murky shadows of their original vibrancy. Foil wallpaper featured metallic surfaces, gold, silver, copper, and bronze, printed with patterns or textures that reflected light dramatically and created shimmering, glamorous wall surfaces that screamed 1970s excess. The wallpaper consisted of thin metal foil bonded to paper backing, creating genuinely reflective surfaces rather than metallic printed patterns. Popular designs included geometric patterns, abstract swirls, textured grass cloth effects, and Art Deco-inspired motifs that caught and reflected light throughout rooms. Foil wallpaper appeared most frequently in powder rooms, dining rooms, and accent walls where dramatic impact mattered more than practicality or subtlety. The appeal was obvious. Foil wallpaper created instant glamour and sophistication at relatively low cost. The metallic surfaces reflected light, on making small spaces feel larger and brighter. A genuine functional benefit beyond pure aesthetics. Candlelight and lamplight reflected beautifully off foil surfaces, creating romantic, shimmering effects during dinner parties and gatherings. The wallpaper also coordinated perfectly with other 70s metallic trends like brass fixtures, gold-framed mirrors, and bronze accessories, creating cohesive metallic design schemes throughout homes. Installation of foil wallpaper required careful attention and specific techniques. The metallic surface showed every imperfection in walls underneath. Bumps, dents, uneven texture all became glaringly visible under reflective foil. Walls needed perfectly smooth preparation before installation, requiring extensive patching, sanding, and priming. The foil itself was delicate and tore easily during installation, and paste had to be applied carefully to avoid bubbles or wrinkles that showed prominently under reflective surfaces. Professional installation was recommended but expensive, leading many DIY homeowners to attempt installation themselves with mixed results. But foil wallpaper had severe practical problems that outweighed glamorous appearances. The metallic surfaces showed fingerprints, smudges, and dirt prominently. Every touch left visible marks that were difficult to clean without scratching the delicate foil. The wallpaper also conducted electricity, creating genuine electrical hazards when installed near outlets, switches, or light fixtures without proper insulation and care. Several house fires were attributed to foil wallpaper creating electrical shorts, leading to safety warnings and installation restrictions. The reflective surfaces also created glare problems that made rooms uncomfortable. Sunlight streaming through windows reflected harshly off foil walls, creating blinding spots and making rooms feel hot and overwhelming. The glamorous shimmer that seemed elegant in dim evening light became headache-inducing under bright daylight or overhead lighting. Small rooms covered in foil wallpaper felt like disco balls or spacecraft interiors, disorienting rather than elegant. Woven wall hangings were fiber art textiles created on looms featuring geometric patterns, abstract designs, and nature-inspired motifs in natural wool, cotton, jute, and synthetic fibers. Unlike macrame, which involved knotting, woven wall hangings were created by interlacing warp and weft threads on horizontal or vertical looms, producing flat textile art with intricate patterns and color combinations. The most popular designs featured earth tones, browns, oranges, avocados, harvest golds, in striped patterns, abstract landscapes, and geometric shapes that reflected 70s aesthetics and the decade's obsession with handmade artisanal objects. Woven wall hangings appeared in living rooms, bedrooms, and dining rooms as statement pieces that demonstrated owners' appreciation for craft, natural materials, and bohemian style. Large weavings occupied entire walls, functioning as textile alternatives to paintings or prints. The natural fibers and earth-tone colors coordinated perfectly with wood paneling, cork walls, and other 70s materials, creating cohesive organic design schemes. Sunburst mirrors featured circular center mirrors surrounded by metal rays extending outward like stylized sun imagery, creating dramatic focal points that combined function and sculpture. The rays came in various styles: straight metal rods, twisted wire, decorative finials, alternating lengths, gold-painted metal, brass, copper, or chrome finishes. Sizes ranged from small 12-inch diameter pieces to massive 4-foot installations that dominated entire walls. Sunburst mirrors appeared above mantels, in entryways, over dining room buffets, and as bedroom focal points, providing both reflection and decorative impact. The sunburst mirror originated in French mid-century design, but exploded in popularity during the 1970s as homeowners sought decorative elements that felt artistic and sophisticated. Geometric wallpaper featured bold, abstract patterns: circles, hexagons, triangles, squares, overlapping shapes, optical illusions, and abstract designs in vibrant orange, brown, yellow, avocado, and harvest gold combinations that assaulted eyes and dominated rooms. Unlike subtle patterns that complemented spaces, 70s geometric wallpaper demanded attention, creating focal walls that overpowered furniture, artwork, and everything else in rooms. The patterns ranged from simple, repeating shapes to complex, interlocking designs that created visual movement and three-dimensional illusions through clever use of color and shadow. Wallpaper manufacturers embraced geometric patterns as modern, forward-thinking design that broke from traditional florals and damasks. The bold graphics reflected contemporary art movements, pop art, and psychedelic aesthetics that defined 70s visual culture. Geometric wallpaper appeared in every room: living rooms, bedrooms, kitchens, bathrooms, even hallways, creating coordinated geometric environments throughout homes. 15 trends vanished: velvet Elvis watching from walls, foil wallpaper conducting electricity, woven textiles collecting decades of dust, sunburst mirrors tarnishing and falling apart, geometric patterns assaulting eyes daily. Every trend promised glamour, art, or sophistication. Every trend was impractical, overwhelming, or impossible to maintain. 10 more remain. Faux brick paneling involved covering walls with thin plastic or hardboard panels printed and textured to resemble brick, creating instant exposed brick aesthetics without the cost, weight, or structural requirements of actual masonry. The panels came in 4x8 sheets like wood paneling, featured raised brick patterns with mortar lines, and were painted to look like red brick, whitewashed brick, or aged brick with variations in color and texture. Installation required the same simple process as wood paneling, nail panels directly to walls or studs, creating fake brick surfaces in basements, family rooms, accent walls, and sometimes entire rooms for homeowners seeking industrial or rustic aesthetics without actual renovation. Faux brick paneling appealed to homeowners who wanted the look of exposed brick, which implied urban sophistication, loft living, and industrial chic. The mortar lines looked painted rather than recessed, and the brick texture was shallow embossing rather than genuine masonry relief. From more than a few feet away, faux brick walls looked vaguely brick-like, but up close they revealed themselves as cheap plastic pretending to be expensive masonry. The panels also had practical problems. The thin plastic warped and buckled in humid environments like basements, creating waves and gaps that destroyed any remaining illusion of real brick. The panels yellowed over time, especially white or light-colored brick patterns, creating dingy appearances. Damage to panels, scratches, dents, cracks, looked obviously plastic rather than naturally weathered brick, immediately revealing the fake nature. Seams between panels showed clearly despite efforts to align brick patterns, creating visible lines that broke the illusion completely. Grasscloth wallpaper featured natural woven grasses, reeds, jute, or hemp bonded to paper backing, creating textured organic wall coverings that brought natural materials and earth tone aesthetics directly onto walls. Unlike printed wallpaper imitating natural textures, grasscloth was genuinely natural. Actual plant fibers woven into sheets and applied to walls like fabric wall covering. The texture was rough, tactile, and visually interesting, with variations in color and weave that made each panel unique. No colors ranged from natural wheat and tan tones to dyed versions in avocado, harvest gold, brown, and orange that coordinated with 70s color palettes. Grasscloth represented the pinnacle of 70s natural materials obsession. While other trends used fake wood or printed patterns, grasscloth was authentically natural. Real plants, real texture, real organic materials covering walls. The material fit perfectly with macrame, cork, wood paneling, and other natural elements, creating cohesive organic environments. Grasscloth also provided sound-dampening qualities, making rooms quieter, a genuine functional benefit beyond aesthetics. The texture caught light interestingly, creating shadows and depth that flat-painted walls couldn't achieve. Installation required professional expertise. On grasscloth couldn't get wet. Moisture caused the natural fibers to swell, distort, and separate from backing. Installers had to paste walls rather than wallpaper, carefully position dry grasscloth panels, and smooth them into place without getting fibers wet. Seams were particularly challenging. The natural material frayed and couldn't be perfectly aligned like printed wallpaper, so visible seams were inevitable and considered part of grasscloth's handmade, natural aesthetic. The material was also expensive, significantly more costly than vinyl wallpaper, making grasscloth a luxury material that signaled wealth and sophisticated taste. Removing grasscloth proved nightmarish. The natural fibers shredded and disintegrated during removal, creating fibrous mess that clung to walls. The backing paper often remained glued stubbornly to walls even after fibers were scraped away. Removal required extensive scraping, sanding, and wall repair, days of labor to remove wall covering that had seemed like permanent, sophisticated choice. Metal wall sculptures were three-dimensional art pieces made from copper, brass, bronze, iron, and aluminum, featuring abstract designs, nature motifs, geometric patterns, and representational images that added sculptural depth and metallic shine to walls. Popular designs included abstract swirls and curves, birds in flight, flowers and botanical themes, geometric shapes, and modernist compositions that created shadows and dimensional interest beyond flat paintings or prints. The sculptures ranged from small accent pieces to massive installations covering several square feet, providing instant sophistication and artistic credibility to homes without requiring art knowledge or gallery budgets. Metal wall sculptures represented serious art, or so homeowners believed. Unlike macrame or string art, which obviously came from craft kits, metal sculptures looked professional and artistic, suggesting owners appreciated fine art and contemporary design. The dimensional quality created genuine visual interest. The sculptures changed appearance based on lighting angles, in creating different shadows and highlights throughout the day. The metallic finishes caught light beautifully, adding sparkle and reflection to walls without the overwhelming impact of mirror tiles or foil wallpaper. Sears, J.C. Penney, and department stores sold metal wall sculptures alongside paintings and prints, legitimizing them as proper wall art rather than crafts or decor accessories. The sculptures coordinated with other metallic 70s elements, brass fixtures, copper pots, gold-framed mirrors, creating cohesive metallic design schemes. Abstract designs worked with any decor style, and the neutral metallic colors didn't clash with color schemes or require redecorating when paint colors changed. Driftwood art involved arranging weathered, water-worn wood pieces, actual driftwood collected from beaches and riverbanks, onto boards or directly onto walls, creating natural, organic wall decor that brought beach and coastal aesthetics into inland homes. The art ranged from simple arrangements of a few interesting driftwood pieces to complex compositions featuring dozens of carefully selected branches, roots, and trunk sections arranged into abstract patterns, recognizable shapes, or three-dimensional landscapes. Some pieces incorporated shells, stones, rope, netting, and other natural materials, creating coastal collages that evoked seaside vacations and beach houses. Driftwood art fit perfectly with 70s natural materials, obsession, and back-to-nature aesthetics. The weathered wood represented nature's artistry. Years of water, wind, and sun had shaped, smoothed, and silvered the wood into beautiful forms that required no human intervention beyond collection and arrangement. Creating driftwood art required no artistic skill. The wood's inherent beauty did the work, and arranging pieces was intuitive rather than technical. The natural gray and silver tones coordinated with earth tone color schemes without adding color. Mosaic tile art involved creating images, patterns, or abstract designs from small ceramic tiles, glass pieces, or broken china arranged and grouted onto boards or directly onto walls, creating permanent decorative installations that combined craft and art. Popular designs included geometric patterns, nature scenes, abstract compositions, and representational images. Flowers, birds, landscapes, portraits, created by carefully positioning colored tiles to form images like pixelated pictures. The mosaics ranged from small coaster-sized pieces to massive installations covering several square feet, providing colorful, textured wall interest that was genuinely handmade and unique. Creating mosaic art appealed to craft enthusiasts who enjoyed meticulous, time-consuming projects that produced impressive results. Craft stores sold mosaic kits with pre-cut tiles, adhesive, grout, and pattern templates, making the craft accessible to beginners. Advanced crafters collected broken dishes, stained glass, mirror pieces, and decorative tiles, creating custom palettes and original designs without commercial kits. The process was meditative and satisfying, sorting colors, positioning tiny pieces, watching images emerge gradually over hours or days of careful work. Mushroom wall art featured ceramic, wood, or plastic mushrooms, toadstools with red caps and white spots, brown mushrooms in clusters, whimsical mushroom families, mounted on plaques, arranged in three-dimensional groupings, or incorporated into nature scenes and forest dioramas. The mushrooms were almost always decorative fantasy mushrooms rather than realistic fungi, featuring bright colors, exaggerated proportions, and fairy tale aesthetics that appealed to 70s psychedelic culture and children's room decor. Homco manufactured countless mushroom designs sold through home party representatives who displayed mushroom collections in living rooms, convincing friends and neighbors that mushroom-themed homes represented sophisticated decorating. Mushroom imagery exploded in 1970s popular culture. The psychedelic movement embraced mushrooms for obvious reasons. Hallucinogenic mushrooms and mushroom symbolism appeared in counterculture art, music, and fashion. Disney's Fantasia featured dancing mushrooms in the Chinese dance segment, cementing mushroom imagery as whimsical and magical. The Smurfs, introduced in 1958 but gaining popularity through the 70s, lived in mushroom houses, further associating mushrooms with childhood imagination and fantasy. Kitchen mushroom decor, mushroom canisters, mushroom wallpaper, mushroom salt and pepper shakers, coordinated with mushroom wall art, creating fully mushroom-themed spaces. Mushroom wall art appeared in kitchens, children's rooms, family rooms, and sometimes living rooms in homes where owners either embraced psychedelic aesthetics or simply thought mushrooms looked cute and whimsical. The ceramic mushrooms came in earth tones, browns, oranges, avocados, that coordinated with 70s color schemes, though bright red and white spotted toadstools also appeared frequently. Three-dimensional arrangements featured mushrooms at various heights, creating forest floor scenes, sometimes incorporating moss, stones, and miniature woodland creatures. But mushroom wall art carried problematic associations. The psychedelic drug culture connection made mushrooms inappropriate for conservative homes and families uncomfortable with counterculture imagery. Even innocent ceramic mushrooms raised questions about whether homeowners were signaling drug use or appreciation. The three-dimensional arrangements required dusting each individual mushroom, tedious labor compounded by the fact that ceramic mushrooms broke easily if knocked or dropped during cleaning. The arrangements also protruded from walls, creating head-bumping hazards and taking up valuable wall space that could accommodate functional shelving or legitimate artwork. Shag carpet wall hangings involved mounting shag carpet pieces, actual leftover carpet remnants, or specially designed carpet art onto walls as decorative textile installations, creating soft, fuzzy, textured wall surfaces in the same material that covered floors throughout 70s homes. The carpet pieces came in solid colors, geometric patterns, and sometimes dyed designs mounted on backing boards with frames or hung directly on walls like tapestries. The practice started as thrifty reuse of carpet remnants and evolved into deliberate design choice where homeowners covered accent walls or created carpet artwork, bringing floor coverings onto walls in ultimate 70s material confusion. The appeal was partly practical. Carpet provided sound dampening that reduced noise transmission through walls, making shared walls in apartments and townhouses quieter. The fuzzy texture added warmth and softness that hard surfaces lacked, and the deep pile created dimensional depth and visual interest. shag carpet wall hangings also coordinated perfectly with wall-to-wall shag carpeting, creating total immersion environments where floors and walls shared the same fuzzy, tactile quality. But carpet on walls was fundamentally problematic from the beginning. The material collected dust, dirt, cooking grease, and odors aggressively, even more than floor carpet because wall-mounted carpet received less vacuuming and cleaning attention than floors. The horizontal pile orientation meant dust and debris settled into fibers and stayed there, creating grimy, discolored patches that were difficult or impossible to clean. Vacuuming wall-mounted carpet required special attachments and awkward maneuvering, and most people simply ignored carpet walls until they became visibly filthy. The carpet also absorbed and retained odors, cooking smells, cigarette smoke, pet odors, creating rooms that smelled musty and stale regardless of ventilation or air freshening attempts. Removing carpet wall hangings left adhesive residue, nail holes, and damaged walls requiring repair and repainting. The carpet backing often bonded to walls, requiring scraping and sanding to remove completely. In some cases, adhesive damaged wall surfaces so severely that replacing drywall became necessary. Burlap wall coverings involved applying rough, woven burlap fabric directly to walls, creating textured, natural surfaces that brought organic materials and rustic aesthetics into homes through coarse jute or hemp fabric that typically served agricultural and industrial purposes rather than interior decoration. The burlap came in natural tan and brown tones or could be dyed in earth colors, avocado, harvest gold, burnt orange, coordinating with 70s palettes. Installation involved sizing walls with paste, positioning burlap fabric, and smoothing it into place, creating permanent fabric wall treatments that texture enthusiasts believed added warmth, depth, and natural authenticity. Burlap represented peak 70s natural materials obsession. While other trends used fake wood or synthetic carpets, burlap was genuinely natural, actual plant fibers woven into rough cloth and applied to walls. The material cost very little. Agricultural burlap sold cheaply at farm supply stores, making it an accessible budget option for covering large wall areas. The rough texture added significant visual and tactile interest, creating shadows and depth that flat-painted walls couldn't achieve. The earth tones coordinated with wood paneling, cork walls, macrame, and other natural elements. But burlap on walls was a terrible idea executed poorly across thousands of homes. The rough texture was genuinely abrasive. Brushing against burlap walls caused scrapes and fabric burns. The loose weave shed fibers constantly, creating dust and debris. The material absorbed and retained odors aggressively. Cooking smells, cigarette smoke, pet odors permeated burlap and couldn't be removed without washing the fabric, which was impossible once adhered to walls. Cleaning burlap walls was effectively impossible. Vacuuming removed surface dust, but couldn't clean embedded grime. Any moisture-based cleaning caused burlap to shrink, swell, and separate from walls. Stains absorbed permanently into the porous fibers. Essentially, burlap walls got dirty and stayed dirty, accumulating years of cooking, grease, dust, and general grime that darkened and discolored the fabric until walls looked filthy and neglected. The rough texture also collected cobwebs and dust aggressively. The loose weave created countless small spaces where debris accumulated. In many cases, removing burlap meant replacing drywall entirely, easier than trying to salvage walls underneath years of adhered agricultural fabric. Vinyl record wall art involved displaying LP album covers and records as decorative wall elements, framing favorite albums, arranging multiple covers in grid patterns, or mounting records themselves as circular wall decorations, sometimes heated and shaped into bowls or sculptural forms. The practice started among music enthusiasts who wanted to showcase album artwork, particularly iconic covers from Beatles, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and other major artists whose cover art was legitimately artistic and visually interesting. The large 12-inch square format of LP covers provided substantial visual impact, and the colorful graphics and photography made albums attractive wall elements beyond their musical content. Vinyl record wall displays appeared in bedrooms, family rooms, basements, and music rooms where they demonstrated owners' musical taste and created conversation pieces. Framing albums preserved cover art while allowing records to remain playable by storing them separately. Grid arrangements of multiple album covers created colorful graphic wall installations that functioned as both decor and music collection documentation. The practice was cheap. Albums already owned didn't cost anything extra to display, and easily changed as musical tastes evolved or new albums were acquired. Some people heated vinyl records in ovens until they became pliable, then shaped them into bowls, wavy sculptures, or decorative forms while the plastic cooled. These melted record crafts appeared at craft fairs and in home decor, transforming obsolete or damaged records into functional or decorative objects. The glossy black vinyl caught light interestingly, and the circular shape provided geometric contrast to rectangular frames and square furnishings. But vinyl record displays had significant problems. Mounting records or covers on walls exposed them to sunlight, dust, cooking grease, and humidity that damaged cardboard covers and warped vinyl records. The paper-based album covers faded dramatically in sunlight, losing vibrant colors and becoming washed-out ghosts of original artwork, too rough and uneven for actual food use, too fragile for heavy items, existing only as novelty objects that demonstrated vinyl could be melted, but not why anyone should bother. Pressed flower art involved preserving flowers, leaves, and botanical specimens by pressing them flat between heavy books or in flower presses, then arranging dried specimens on paper or fabric backgrounds and framing the compositions as botanical wall art. The practice combined Victorian-era botanical collecting traditions with 70s natural materials, obsession, and craft culture, creating delicate organic artwork that brought nature directly into homes in preserved, flattened form. Popular flowers for pressing included daisies, pansies, ferns, roses, violets, and wildflowers that retained color and shape reasonably well when dried and flattened. Creating pressed flower art required patience and attention to detail. Fresh flowers and leaves needed careful placement between absorbent paper, then pressing under heavy weight for weeks until completely dried and flattened. Once dried, the brittle specimens were arranged on backgrounds, watercolor paper, fabric, or decorative papers, using tweezers and tiny drops of glue, creating botanical compositions framed under glass for preservation and display. The results ranged from simple single-flower displays to complex arrangements mimicking Victorian herbarium specimens and botanical illustrations. Pressed flower art appealed to nature lovers and craft enthusiasts who enjoyed collecting wildflowers, garden blooms, and autumn leaves, then preserving them as permanent artwork. The process was meditative and connected practitioners to seasonal changes and botanical beauty. The finished pieces provided genuine nature elements preserved behind glass, real flowers, real leaves, authentic natural materials rather than printed reproductions or synthetic alternatives. But pressed flower art had fundamental preservation problems. The dried plant materials continued deteriorating even behind glass. Colors faded dramatically over time, especially when exposed to light. Vibrant pink roses turned brown and beige. Purple violets faded to dull gray. Green leaves yellowed and turned brittle. Within a few years, most pressed flower art looked drab, brown, and dead, rather than fresh and botanical. The Victorian associations, pressed flowers in albums, botanical collecting, herbarium specimens, felt dated and old-fashioned rather than natural and contemporary.